Today's lesson is to install Neutrik TRUE1 connectors on 12 gauge SO cable. You have to use some heat shrink tubing because the Neutrik connectors themselves will not accommodate the size of the 12-3 cable. The connector I just showed you is the male connector. So for the other side, we're going to be doing the female connector. This will be for stage boxes, quad boxes, for live sound. To show you what I mean about out of the box, how these connectors are sized, this hole right here cannot expand to accommodate the entire casing for a 12-3. It'll work for a 14 gauge, but not 12. So using a system of heat shrinkable tubing with adhesive and some cable pull lubricant. Neutrik recommends the 3M, but I found this ideal aqua gel on eBay for about $8, and it works well for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove about 7.5 centimeters from the outer insulation. This is a bit more than is recommended in the Neutrik PDF, but you'll see why we need the extra space as we get more into the video. For this project, I purchased two sizes of heat shrinkable tubing. The outermost is this 1 inch in diameter, which has an adhesive on the inside that when heated will give you a better mechanical connection. Cut off about 6 centimeters here. Doesn't need to be very long. We're going to put this down here for later use. Although it's not necessary, I like to tin the ends of the cables to minimize the fraying of the stranded cable. We go about 1 centimeter down here. Cut these off. This is some older surplus cable, so it will take some extra time compared to brand new cable for tinning. An important step we need to do is to look at the connector here and make sure that we're connecting things in the proper polarity. Obviously with AC, we don't want to have any swapped neutrals and hots and that kind of stuff. So these female connectors are easier to read for me, but if you have trouble reading them, just get out your cell phone and take a picture. Better safe than sorry. So we can see how, for this one, the We've got the ground here, the neutral or white here, and the line or black here. We're going to have to remember that for when we connect this up. These connectors don't use Phillips, they use a Torx T8 set screw, so that's something to keep in mind. I like to back these out all the way to start with to make the assembly easier. Next thing we're going to do is to get some 3/4 inch heat shrinkable tubing with the adhesive. Once again, we're going to cut about 5 or 6 centimeters off of this. This will give us something thinner that the backing will be able to slide on. Once we get to that point, you'll see what I mean. Leave about 2.5 centimeters here. In order for these parts to slide on here, we need to use the lubricant. It really makes things much more plausible here. I try not to get it on the connectors themselves, just to help make sure that we got a pretty good connection. The most important part is where the heat shrink meets the bare wires, or the individual conductors here. Sometimes I put some in here too, although I don't like to get it on stripped wires. The center part here will actually expand, and you'll see that once we get this on here. As you push this on, be careful that the black part doesn't get separated from the yellow part. And to do that, I put my index finger inside here as I push. There's a spring between the black part and the yellow rubber part that I like to keep in place if I can, even though I'm not sure if it's totally required. And push that all the way up as far as I can get it to go. I like to wipe this lubricant, this string pull lubricant off pretty quick, just because it has a tendency to get on your fingers and makes things squirt out of your hands pretty easily. The next piece is this strain relief, which is a very important piece because without it, the assembly would not stay together. These only fit a certain way. I wish they could have marked them more easily, but you'll see that this slot right here goes like that. And that is right where the ground is on both the male and the female connectors. So when I put this on here, I like to line it up with where the ground is. So once again, the black goes with the L or line. Ideally, if you can get these tinned well, you can put all 3 of them in at once. Once you've got them in and inspected, I like to tighten down these Torx screws pretty well to avoid these backing out through time. The last step is to put this on. Once again, it's keyed so that it can only go on one way. Put this on here nice and snug. You can see how the yellow rubber part here overlaps the heat shrink, makes a nice watertight seal. Now with this additional 1-inch heat shrink, it will overlap, provide even more of a seal. And there is the completed assembly.